Hello, my name is Monster Hunter, and today is a little bit of a different video. I was having a conversation with a gentleman in my comment section for the video Wilds is a Beautiful Mess, and eventually it came to a point where we had like a whole thread going on, and he just said he made a video response to it. Go check it out. I was like, all right, cool. Like, I got you, homie. Let me tell you something. The only reason I'm on camera right now, which is probably the second time I've only appeared on camera in any of my videos, it's because the moment I saw that thumbnail and I saw that title, I just knew. I was like, it's one of them days. I was like, okay, yeah, yeah. So here I am. I'm gonna make a response to this response. Do it completely live, and we will see what it is that he has to say. But I feel like that 6 out of 10 thing, dude. I'm gonna try to figure out how many times 6 out of 10 gets brought up, because the way it was being brought up in those comments, oh lord.
So I've been playing Monster Hunter Wilds ever since it came out. I think it is a fantastic game. Not perfect, but a very, very, very good game, and easily the best Monster Hunter game I've ever played, and definitely, definitely one of the best Monster Hunters ever created by far, by far, 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 far. But that's my opinion. Okay. So
He is entitled to that opinion. I wouldn't come at him and say that you're wrong for liking Wilds for any shape or way, shape, or form. That's his opinion. My opinion, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate is the best Monster Hunter game. I've got other ones that are my favorite, but Generations Ultimate, to me, that's peak, right? I didn't enjoy Wilds. I think that's very obvious. I made 3-4 videos speaking about it, and I wouldn't say that he's wrong for having that opinion. He's definitely right to feel the way that he does.
so I love the game. I think it's great. Obviously, probably going to get Game of the Year for me unless something else comes out this year that blows my mind. But I play it
Obscure Expedition 33.
every day. It's my favorite Monster Hunter. I love Monster Hunter as a franchise. My favorite Monster Hunter before this was Monster Hunter World, which I put thousands of hours in. But I feel like I'm going to do the same thing with Wilds, and maybe even to a greater degree as time goes on. However, a lot of people in the Monster Hunter community are really shitting on this game, and not for good reason. Not for a good reason. The only reason I can justify shitting on Monster Hunter Wilds,
Like any Monster Hunter game, there are plenty of reasons to shit on it. Plenty of reasons. Just because you like the game doesn't mean that it doesn't have problems. Let's think about this rationally. I love Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. That's my favorite game. Hyper monsters are, it's nightmare fuel. The amount of deviant quests that you have to do, trash, and then on top of the theme, ooh, right there. Then there's Valor style, just kind of breaks the game a bit. Certain weapons just extraordinarily strong with that. The quest bloat, it's usually just bringing in quests from basically every game that came out, minus the subspecies quests, but it's quite a lot of quests. You know, it's absolutely insane. There's a lot of reasons to not like Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. There's a lot of reasons why Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate isn't somebody's favorite Monster Hunter game. And that's absolutely fine. Somebody can hate Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. I love it. It is what it is. But I'm not going to say there's only one reason you should shit on Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, and that's because of Hyper Monsters. No. No. Every game has problems with it. For you, it's basically damn near impossible to play solo unless you're a fucking god. That sucks, bro. Like Rise came out, Rampages, dude, Rampages were garbage, bro. Oh my god, I hated Rampages, dog. But I loved Rise. But there's always a reason that somebody doesn't like a game. It's justified. If he doesn't like something else, he's justified for having that opinion. It's been 53 seconds in this video and 4 minutes into mine. Jesus.
to an extent, is the performance, because for some people the performance is really bad, but it's not that way for me. I don't know why, but for some people the performance is really bad. So I can understand shitting on the game for that, but everything else I don't fucking get. And I came across a lot of videos so far, just trying to hear other people's opinions, see what they had to say. And a lot of times these guys are just really talking out of their ass, saying shit that doesn't really make any sense at all whatsoever, just because they don't like the game and they want to justify their reasoning for not liking the game, rather than just being adults and saying, I don't like the game, not for me, and just not playing it. They have to say, well, I don't like it and this is why. And also, by the way,
This is probably a hot take considering today's social climate. There are two mature ways to handle this situation. If you do not like a game, you do not have to engage with it. You can walk away, just like he said. However, there's a second part of the maturity that comes in. If you did not like a game and you can voice why you didn't like something, it doesn't matter if somebody disagrees with you. It's why you didn't like it, right? I released my video. I said why I didn't like it. There were tons of people that were saying, hey, I found this to be irritating about the game as well. Or I found this problem to be irritating, or so on and so forth. I spoke my mind in a cordial manner. I expressed what it is that I had to say. That in and of itself is maturity. You can't say that it's not mature. Like what is the only road to not liking something is to just walk away from it? Nah, I don't think so.
I'm going to rate the game because this game's actually pretty bad. Right? If you give something a 6 out of 10, that means it's pretty bad. If anyone gives Wilds a 6 out of 10, they are not being genuine. They genuinely are not being genuine unless they're like a performance freak. Unless they're like one of those.
It's that damn 6 out of 10. It's that 6 out of 10 that I told you.
People who are like, a game has to run at 120 frames. The moment I log on, it has to be a 600 FPS, 4K, otherwise it's unplayable. Then, okay, those people, obviously, they might feel a little bit differently. They may be a little bit biased because they really love performance. But a Monster Hunter fan can't be that way.
So for performance, I don't care about performance. Performance has never mattered for me. I started off on PlayStation 1, Nintendo 64, all that stuff like that. Like when I was 2 years old, I was playing games. Yes, my memories go back that far. I can lay out my entire apartment in Germany. But I also don't like when people have a fixation on performance. However, I'm not going to say that that should be something that they justify the game on. It's the same thing as when which Batman game was it that came out on the PC and the PC port was dog water. The game is good. It's just that unfortunately it was not properly optimized. That's the same thing with Monster Hunter Wilds. I get it, because if you can't play the game, then how can you enjoy it? So then you're going to give it a negative rating because you want the game to be able to be playable. But I wouldn't say that that's the only reason people should be justified in not liking the game.
Want to know why? Because Monster Hunter World dropped on console when it first came out. It was not on PC. And on console, it did not run at 60 FPS. It was struggling to do 30 or 40 FPS.
All over the place.
I played on PS4.
Every version creating a jerky-looking
On
experience.
launch day, I played PS4.
With that out of the way, then, let's start with the base PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions. A lot of people will be playing on base systems after all. So how do they run?
Is this
Well, this is a highly variable game, as I've mentioned before, so these are random samples, which
is this just
attempt to
Digital
represent
Foundry's video?
average game performance, but for the results, around 30 FPS.
But these guys act like this game was just launched at 120 FPS on PC. It wasn't even on PC when it came out. So that's how I know these guys are full of shit. Because if you love World, you didn't mind FPS drops. So you weren't a fucking FPS freak. Like, maybe you've become one, but back then you weren't. So as a Monster Hunter fan, that has never been a thing. Now, obviously, just because it used to have bad FPS on launch doesn't mean it should have it right now. And if it launches on PC, it should have good frames. I'm not saying that that is an excuse. I'm just saying that it wasn't that big of a deal before. Why is it that big of a deal now? But
no, he's absolutely right. Like, again, like I'm not really a big fan of the whole performance debate. Like, I understand if you can't play the game or you want it to run at optimized graphics. Now, if you're getting the origami monsters like some people were getting, all right, you might have an issue there. But performance aside, like I even say in my Wilds is not for me video, I even say performance issues aside. 2, the visuals are kind of on point. Performance issues aside, the visuals are amazing. From elemental effects to super minute details like footprints in the sand and water ripples in the forest.
that's regardless of the point. So I end up clicking on this video right here. It's called Monster Hunter Wilds is a Beautiful Mess, but... And I heard that this was one of the more genuine critiques of Monster Hunter. This was one of the ones that really talked about the pros and the cons and assessed the game fairly and gave some...
I feel like that might have been Meatman's video. But I also feel like because he stopped at the 28-second mark, he didn't really watch the whole video. I think he might not have seen what I was saying.
And who had a negative opinion about the game, but was being reasonable about that negative opinion and had some reasonable, justifiable explanations as to why he didn't think that the game was very good. So I was like, all right, let's hear him out, right? And within the first minute, maybe even less than a minute,
seconds.
This guy gives Monster Hunter Wilds, compared to all Monster Hunters, a 6 out of 10. To be fair, he did give it 8 out of 10 as a game, which is what he should have fucking said from the beginning. But 6 out of 10.
Nigga, I said that. I said it together. I give it a 6. It's an 8 out of 10 game, but I give it a 6. If I were to rate Monster Hunter Wilds as a video game, I'd probably give it like a 7 or an 8. As a Monster Hunter game, probably a high 6. I guess I think I turned into IGN. Oh, God, no.
Compared to all Monster Hunters is fucking insane. And that's when I knew.
It's not. It's not. And here's why. All right. Look, you said it already. World was your favorite. Wilds came out. Wilds is your favorite. Correct? Are we to assume that you've only either A, played World and Wilds, those are the only two Monster Hunter games, or you've played many other Monster Hunter games? In which case, if you have played other Monster Hunter games, did you enjoy them? Was there one that you didn't like? Right? Because here's the thing. If it's only those two games, you wouldn't know where I'm coming from. But if you played more games than just World and Wilds, you would know. Okay, what am I talking about here? XYZ. Cool. You could completely understand that. When I'm rating these games, I'm not kidding. I still play all of them. I still play all of them. I've got 3 PSPs. When I rate these games, when I had a tier list on there, a lot of people were getting on me about that fucking tier list. I swear to God. Those are the tier lists of the games that I enjoyed myself, right? And the thing about that is, you're going to have some that you didn't like. Did you play Monster Hunter Rise? If yes, did you enjoy Monster Hunter Rise? Okay. If you gave it an 8 out of 10, if you gave it a 9 out of 10, if you gave it a 10 out of 10, then are you saying that every Monster Hunter game is an 8 out of 10 to 10 out of 10? Or are you saying that you just only played World and Wilds? If that's the scope that you're going off of, and you haven't played the other games, I guess I'll explain it.
I'm going to be genuine, and I'm not going to waste my time because my time is finite, and I'm not going to waste my time watching something that I know someone is just talking out of their ass about. So I just completely paused the video, and I left a comment, right? And so here's the comment thread. The comment thread ended up getting pretty long. I was at work when I got this. And then he said a very long paragraph responding to my last comment.
It wasn't that long.
And I want to
compared to the other ones we did, it was
in
not
video
that long.
form because I got tired of typing, honestly. And also, I want to get this off my chest, not just for him, but for a lot of people who regurgitate the same talking points that he's talking about right now, or some of the points that he's making that just really aren't that big of a freaking deal. But okay, let's go. Okay, so he starts off by saying, I think your main issue.
What did he say?
Okay, so he starts off by saying,
I did not start off by saying the way that it's edited makes it sound like I could be wrong. This could be a little bit later in editing.
I think your main issue isn't that I expressed my opinion and experiences, but rather that I gave it a number rating and you don't like that. No, that's not it. I don't mind you giving it a number rating. It's just that your number rating was completely illogical based on the
that was 4 completely's
criticism that you have for the game, or which I already knew it was going to be. I didn't have to hear your video out because I knew that you were going to have no way to justify giving this game a 6, because there is no way to justify giving this game a 6 unless, like I said, you're a performance freak, which you're not because you're a Monster Hunter fan. So you don't really give a fuck about performance like that. Stop it.
I'm not a performer. I'm not a performance freak because I'm a Monster Hunter fan. I'm not a performance freak because I grew up on PlayStation, Nintendo, all that other stuff, and graphics don't matter. Gameplay is king. You can have a game that looks bad and plays good, but you can't have a game that looks good and plays bad. You can't do that. You can't. Like,
it's not like what I'm bringing up is something that people haven't voiced before. Others have found similar reasons to take issue. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I'm not talking about them, though. I'm talking about you. I'm not talking about them. I know they did. You're just another
because it leads into what I was saying next.
Person doing that, so I'm calling you out for it. Ratataskr's video got him quite a bit of backlash for some of the things he was saying. It's expected, but had he given it a rating on top of what he was presenting, would you have been this aggressive and demeaning with him? Well, you guys can go in the comments that I just made with this guy. Do you think I was being aggressive and demeaning? I mean, I am an aggressive person. I'll give him that, but I don't think I was demeaning. I never called him an idiot. I never called him out of his name. I just thought that he was full of crap.
You know, the irony of all this is that I would actually be Huey and you would actually be Riley.
And Dad, I would just go to Ed's house, and Huey said I couldn't go because he a hater.
What the hell is wrong with you, Huey? If your brother wants to play with Ed and Rummy, that's his business.
Granddad, Ed and Rummy are international criminals. There he go, hating again.
You know, like that would be the irony of the situation. But here's the thing. When you're coming at me, right? You could have discussed this in a way where you said, hey, I disagree with your points. Here's what I think. Such and such. You started off aggressive. If anybody else reads that and they go, fine, trust me, dude. There's a very clear difference between how you and I were talking. That's why I'm saying, like, you're Riley, I'm Huey. Very different. Like, there's the irony of this situation because there were many different ways to handle that, and it's kind of like ironic about the maturity angle when it came to that. Here's the thing. Again, if you don't like something, you should be able to say why. There's mature responses as to walking away from it. You could have walked away from taking your own advice. You could have walked away from that video. You could have left it alone. You didn't. You commented. That's also a mature response. You could hash out the grievance. You know, that's fine. Now, the way that you came about it was very, very front forward. Like you were like right in there. Like, I'm not going to say like, you know, you're coming out there to shank my shit. No. But you were quite forward, quite aggressive on that.
Crap, and I was calling him out for being full of crap on his opinion.
Like that.
I don't think that that's demeaning in any way, shape, or form. But if he ever watches,
like, here's the thing, right? I don't like Monster Hunter Wilds. If I were to come at your video, or not, sorry, yeah, if I were to come at your video right now, when you said I like Monster Hunter Wilds, I think it's the best game, it's game of the year, I would think you're full of crap. No, coming from your perspective, I'm not saying you're full of crap. You're allowed to enjoy Monster Hunter Wilds. There's a big difference. You're allowed to enjoy Monster Hunter Wilds. If you think Monster Hunter Wilds is game of the year, that's fantastic. Me personally, it's probably going to be Expedition 33. It's more than likely going to be Expedition 33. However, I disagree with you that Monster Hunter Wilds is going to be game of the year. I'm not coming at you and saying, you're full of shit. Claire Obscure's Expedition 33 is the best game. That's going to be game of the year. Get the fuck out of here. I'm not going to do that, bro. I'm not. Because again, you like Monster Hunter Wilds. That's great, man. It's not me, but you know.
This video, Monster Hunter, if you feel demeaning in any way, shape, or form, I did not mean
Monster Hunter
to demean you. Yes, I am aggressive. I agree with you there, but I did not mean to demean you. Now, for those who don't know, Ratataskr is another content creator who made a pretty bad video in his criticisms on Monster Hunter, which was debunked.
You're gonna fucking hate this, but I also give his video a 6 out of 10. Dude, I watched his video and then I watched Meatman's reaction to the video and I was like, you know, I've heard Ratataskr's opinions on things before and I'm like, but I never comment, you know, but that video, I give it a 6 out of 10. I'm so sorry.
By someone else, and a lot of other people in the Monster Hunter community. So yeah, his video was just as bad as yours probably is. Like I said, I haven't watched it, but you put the points for me in this comment,
right.
So I'm gonna assume.
I have an idea. After this response, for however long it is that you're responding to mine, I'm gonna make that video. I'm gonna make that video expressing that because this is not the first video that I made speaking about what I don't like about Wilds. For me personally, from a gameplay standpoint, I don't enjoy it. From a direction standpoint, I don't enjoy it. I'll get into that later.
Assume that everything that you put in this comment is in the video, and then yeah, your video is just as bad as his because your points don't add up to make the conclusion that you're coming up with. It's just like IGN. When IGN said that in Pokemon there was too much water, so they gave Pokemon like a horrible rating.
It was Omega Ruby.
Because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't justify giving it the rating that you give it. You have to really have a problem with the game and have a fundamental flaw for you to give it a 6 out of 10. That's
And another ironic part about this, quick giving notifications. Another ironic part about this is that I did, but you didn't watch the video. God damn. I did. You didn't watch the video. I gave you the cliff notes. I didn't go into extreme detail. I just gave you this because I was like, okay, he clearly values his time. I'm not going to upset him with that. So I made that video, or I made that paragraph. Yeah, just stick around for after this one, Saint.
That's how that works. 6 is a horrible rating for a game. And yes, if he had given a rating, I would have taken issue with it just as much as yours if his rating was dog shit. But I don't know. I mean, I took issue without that because his arguments were terrible. But I at least heard him out because I thought he was being genuine because he didn't give it a 6 out of 10 off the rip like you did. You showed to me that you weren't being genuine by giving it a 6 out of 10. It's a whole bunch of malarkey. I gave brief descriptions of what I was talking about in the video to spare you from having to watch it if you couldn't get past 30 seconds without popping off. Yeah, I understand your theory. I understand why you did that. I mean, it's basic YouTube 101. You tell the person your premise, your thesis at the beginning of the video so they can know if they want to stick around or not. And I do appreciate that. But I'm calling your thesis out for being bullshit. That's it. All right, so
I prefaced it. You're calling out the introductory paragraph before you got into the meat and potatoes of things. I prefaced
next he goes into the on-rail sections, which is basically like whenever you go to a new environment in Monster Hunter, you have to, or Monster Hunter Wilds, I should say, you have to just watch like a glorified cutscene where your character just walks around and does nothing. This is in a lot of AAA games. The reason why they did this was they wanted to introduce the world to the player, introduce the environment, introduce the ecology. A lot of people like this shit. I liked it. I thought it was cool. But the negative of it is, well, if you're trying to play multiplayer with other people, guess what? They have to wait until you get done doing this before they can join. Monster Hunter's never been good with multiplayer in stories. It definitely wasn't good for multiplayer in stories in Wilds. World. So I hope you keep this same energy for World. But yeah, it was an annoying feature, sure.
Okay, listen. All right. It sounds like, and again, I don't want to assume. It sounds like you have only played World and Wilds. Here's the problem with that. For a lot of people, Monster Hunter World is their first Monster Hunter game. And for a lot of other people, Monster Hunter World is the first Monster Hunter game. Let that sink in, okay? Here's the issue with that. I did not like Monster Hunter World's on the rails section. I did not like their multiplayer section because it compared to other games. Now, if you had played, and this is why it's leading me to believe that you have never played another Monster Hunter game other than World and Wilds. If you had played another Monster Hunter game, you would understand exactly where I'm coming from. You had quests that were separated. Village, which was the single player part, the monster health and status tolerances and things like that, they're scaled down for single player, right? Some of them can still be a challenge. Sure, they're called advanced quests, but single player, village. Multiplayer, hub. All your cutscenes were in the village. All your cutscenes, village, right? Hub quests, you got in, you could play them solo. They were much more difficult because monsters had higher health. They expect you to finish through the village, then come to the hub. So your hub 1 is village 7, technically, right? You go through that, you can have 3 other players, and everybody could run down and do the all their quests and play together. Cutscenes didn't stop you. You just dart right in, just boom, right in. And the way that they would introduce the environment to you, by the way, is that they would have you go to different locations intentionally in the village quest to find certain monsters that were in that specific room so that you could trigger the cutscene, just like World. However, the cutscene wasn't, I mean, it's not skippable, but it was something that you would call ecology. It would just show a little bit of the monster. Boom, right? So you would walk into an area, the screen would go black, it would fade in, then you would get the monster cutscene, then you would go straight to combat, right? Bada bing, bada boom, bada bang. But you're traveling there. You're walking to that location already. So if you didn't know, like me, off the top of my head, I know almost every monster spawn in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. If I replayed that game today, I'd be like, oh, this monster spawns here. I know where the cutscene's at. They do not move unless you see them. So you could walk the whole map looking for this one monster, never find them until you go to a certain room. You could walk the whole thing. And that's not even a joke. So when you're exploring the environment, you walk out in the Jurassic Frontier, the first time you see it on MSGU, you just seeing the windswept plains and everything like that, boom, and then there's like a bunch of leaves, and there's the Brachiosaurus. They're called Larynauts, but I don't think you would know their name. But anyway, you would see all of that, right? Then you would go and explore different areas. Wow, look at this log. It's like pushed down, and then there's a bunch of water coming from the stream. There's a ledge there. That's important. Mushrooms, herbs, this, that, and everything would be laid in plain sight. You finally get to the cutscene. Boom, you fight the monster runs away. You follow the monster. You're seeing more of the map that way. I'm not saying that you have to enjoy it. If you like the on-the-rails sections, that's great. I did not. I like when the control is in my hands and I can go where I please. When I first played Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, I got lost a couple times. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was just like, where the fuck are these monsters? Yeah, it was a little bit of a rough one. Anyway, when you look at all the Monster Hunters, the biggest issue with some of them was that if you did a key quest and it was your urgent quest, because you have to complete a certain number of key quests in old games before the urgent mission came up so that you could upgrade and rank. It wasn't this linear story that's in World and Wilds. So what happens is you don't even know which quest is the key quest. Until Rise came out, you didn't know which quest was the key quest. And that was a big issue, right? But if you did your key quest, everybody would get the quest completion. It would go toward the urgent quest. However, some games, if you completed the urgent quest and you were the party leader, it completed for you, which means you had to go back and do it 3 more times for everybody else trying to get the upgrades. So you had to do it 3 more times. That's frustrating, okay? Realistically, that's frustrating. Another aspect of it, if somebody has not done a particular quest or they have not found a certain cutscene or whatever the heck, then they would not be able to join a quest that was posted by somebody who might be just a little bit further along. They can be the same HR, but they couldn't join the quest. Those were the only frustrations. That was it. Here's the problem with World. Here you are, right? Every single cutscene is unskippable. If you replay the game, God help your soul, bro. So you would sit there, you would go through the quest, and then you would have that section where you go through the cutscene. Okay. Then you have a bunch of the on-the-rail sections where you're just walking through. That Baroth quest, Zora Magdaros quest, what is it called? After the Elder's Recess unlocks. Ooh, terrible design from a game that traditionally sent you on your way and you just explored. If they could have implemented it in a better way, hey, what are these weird tracks going into this mountainside? What's going on here? Oh my God, the Elder's Recess. That would make you feel like you're still exploring rather than having to walk up. Oh, I gotta stop because I got too far ahead. Oh, it's gonna turn me around. It's gonna snap my neck. Do you see where I'm coming from? Do you understand where I'm voicing that frustration from? That's annoying. Then when it comes down to playing with your friends, my friends and I, we played Monster Hunter Rise the night it launched. We beat through Village 4, I believe it was. I still have the recording, I believe. We beat through Village 4. Then we all decided to go in the hub. We fought Arzuros. We just straight went into it. You know, when you see a new monster for the first time, you usually get a cutscene, right? So when a monster cutscene comes up, everybody can opt to skip it. But if somebody doesn't press to skip, then you're sitting there with 3 out of 4 votes on a skip, and you just forced to watch this ecology cutscene. It is what it is. That's for replay, by the way, not for when you're initially experiencing something. Now, the main problem with this is, okay, wow, you can just get straight to the game. You still have to travel to the monster. The monster's not just going to immediately, you're not going to get to the base and boom, there it is. That's not how that works. You have to travel to the monster, which then opens up different parts of the map. You get to see different things. Things happen. Things occur while you're going through there. You're not basically held by the hand and said, oh, go this way, don't get lost now. That was what made the magic of the other games. And to see World and Wilds do so many on the rails sections and make it so difficult to join multiplayer just because you haven't watched this cutscene yet. You know how Wilds was on launch for me and my 2 other friends? Player 1, that would be me, right? Then we have player 2, player 3, right? So I would finish a quest, I would get ahead. I would have to come back. I would have to do with player 2 and player 3, I'd have to do player 2's quest. And then because player 2 was ahead of player 3, then we had to go back and then do the quest, the same quest, by the way, to get them through. All the while, they want to watch the cutscene. We got to a point where if they didn't see a certain cutscene or they didn't see a certain monster yet or whatever, then we couldn't join together. Oh no, I'm in this other area and my friend lagged behind. I'm over here in the ice place. They're back here in the forest. They can't join my quest because I'm higher than them now. Now we have to go back again rather than all of us just progressing together. That's my biggest gripe. That's my biggest gripe with the multiplayer. It's just done poorly. They say that Monster Hunter is a multiplayer game. They've said this before in plenty of other games, just like for Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. That's my initial game, my starting game in the series. Their whole goal was to make people work together, like to play these games. A lot of siege quests were in that game. Gogmazios, I mean, that's just one example, but there's a lot in that game, right? Jen Moran, Darren Moran, excuse me, not Jen Moran. And a lot of those times you had to work together. Like, it was a team thing. And that was important because you guys were progressing. It wasn't a story. You can still tell a story and still have natural progression. That can happen. But it didn't happen in World and Wilds. That's my frustration. It's not just some small, insignificant thing. And I genuinely think you only played World and Wilds. And I really hope I'm wrong about that. Because if you didn't and you have played other games, you should know where I'm coming from with this. That's the most disheartening thing about it. That's what makes your reaction to me thinking that I'm disingenuous. That's what makes your reaction disingenuous.
It has a negative thing about it in the multiplayer aspect, but in the single player aspect, if you're just playing as a single player person, there's nothing wrong with it at all because it completely helps with the immersion. It gets you into the game, it gets you into the world, and introduces you to the ecology for people.
I think I already explained enough. Correct? Like, I think I already laid it out, by the way, because nobody wants to be held on the rails.
People who don't fucking watch YouTube videos of Monster Hunter 200,000 hours a day like we do, including me, you know, it introduces them to what these guys have developed. These guys made an amazing...
There's a thing in gaming called signposting, where you essentially tell somebody where to go, but good signposting is when you don't recognize it happening, right? So, again, getting lost, exploring the place, that's finding out everything about it.
Ecosystem, an amazing world just like they did before, like they've always done, but this is the most amazing one by far, objectively, as a fact. So I don't mind them showing off. I don't mind them. It's not that big of a deal. I don't remember how many times it happens, but I'll be generous and say it happens 10 times. I don't think that's even close to how many times, but
the fact that it even happened once is already a problem. 10 times, I'm pretty sure it's way more than that.
That lasts, each on-rail section lasts 5 minutes each. So 50 minutes, an hour tops. I'll even round it up to an hour. An hour? You're talking about an hour of inconvenient gameplay for multiplayer? That's worthy of giving it a 6 out of 10? Stop.
Hold up.
Stop it, dude. Come on. Stop it. Monster Hunter is a game that you're supposed to pay for thousands of hours.
You don't play thousands of hours through the story. If I spend 100 or if I spend 1 hour full stop of just cutscenes, by the way, I beat the game same day. Not even same day, I started the game at 12, I fell asleep at like 5, woke up at 7, played it again, beat it in that hour. So when I was killing things in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, then I had to watch another cutscene. And for me, that felt like eternity. I'm out here zooming through the game on accident, and then boom, I'm in. Next thing I know, I'm already in a... You feel me?
You're talking about 1 hour. Come on, man. So next he talks about Rise and how it wasn't complete on launch because of COVID. And he loved that game, and he still criticized it because he didn't get the true game until much later.
That's very true, by the way. Rise, when Rise came out, you were missing Elder Dragons. You were missing ones that should have been in the game from the start. You were missing the Apexes, and then you were missing the end of the story. Dog, I get COVID happened, but I genuinely think they should have postponed it because, in my honest opinion, title updates should add on to the complete experience, not give you what should have been. I'm sorry. Shia had no business being in a title update when he was already in the game. His gear and everything already in the game. You're going to tell me title update, that's fine? No. I cannot settle for that shit. And the more we settle for that, the more we get things like this to happen until a point where I'm already underwater and you just now came down and I'm like, first time? Welcome. Hi. How you doing? You created this. You're placating, you placated these people. You created this situation.
Rise wasn't completed because there was a previous Monster Hunter game that I didn't play, but it wasn't completed when.
All right, never mind. Yeah, no, theory confirmed, my nigga. Theory confirmed. All right, look, man, look. If you would have played Rise, you would have completely understood what I was talking about. But you didn't. Now you have to watch this video.
It came out because COVID was around the time, so they launched an incomplete game. And that's why I was saying that Rise was an incomplete game. Rise is an example of an incomplete game. And I know you know that, but I was just
Rise is the
reminding
incomplete
you
game.
that Rise is an example of an incomplete game. World and Wilds are not. They were launched with a full roster, full game, full story, full package. Everything was completed.
I'll disagree with you on the Wild stuff, primarily because, again, Zoshia is one instance alongside a couple other leaks. Here's the problem. I completely agree that World was released feature complete. I'm getting my ass whooped by you on some shit you don't even know what you're talking about. And then I'm getting my ass whooped by other people who are like, World wasn't a feature complete game, and the World wasn't a feature complete game because the Endgame was trash. That's not how Endgame works, bro. The Endgame was complete. You either did Tempered Monsters or you did Temper Elder Dragons. That's the Endgame. Just because it wasn't so to your liking doesn't mean it wasn't the full game. That's what, and by the way, please don't get this misconstrued. You seem to do this quite a lot where I say something and then you think I'm talking about something else. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about other people in my comment section. You whooping my ass about something that you don't know what you're talking about? Definitely. But when it comes down to other stuff, Devil Joe being a title update, I never heard anybody talking about Devil Joe already being in the game files. Nobody complained about that. I didn't see anything about that, right? But when you look at Wilds, Zoshia not being there, that is definitely evident. Not being able to replay Zoshia, God, what the fuck? But it's in the story though. You got to fight it once, but you had to wait a month to actually get it. So now when people play the full game now, like if they're a newcomer, when the expansion comes out, they get to see Zoshia and refight it. It looks normal, right? No. Not at all.
There was no incomplete. So that incomplete notion is complete nonsensical BS. It was not incomplete at all. It was completed game, completed product, finalized, ready to go. Stop it. Then he says, I never said that Devil Joe, I think it's Devil Yo. I never said it out loud. Devil Yo was supposed to be in Wild.
Are you a fucking tourist, my nigga? Hold the fucking phone here. Hang on. Are you a tourist? I gotta know. I have got to know. Oh no, the Kendrick diss track. Is this your first Monster Hunter video? Oh nah. This can't be, bro. Oh my Jesus, you might be a fucking tourist. Oh my God, no. No, why am I responding to this video? No. Oh no, this is all wrong. You don't know what the fuck is happening. You don't even know what's going on. You're out here mad at me. You don't even know, bro.
Wilds.
Oh,
I'm saying
Jesus.
that World had Devil Yo.
I have to keep looking. Because there's no way. I refuse to believe you're this ignorant, my nigga. There's no fucking way, dog. Please. Oh, no. Oh my God, dude. If you want a really good like explanation, you're like a Chatacabra. I'm like a Zoshia. Like, what are you doing here, bro? What is happening here, man? What in the fuck? Yo, no. Not like this, dude. Dude, no. Oh, no. I do agree, though. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was pretty good. I agree.
As a title update. Yeah, I know that. That's what I said. I said that you don't know if World was supposed to have.
You might be right, actually. I'm getting emotional. Here we go. I'm getting emotional because the only thing I feel towards you is just absolute anger and pity. Holy Jesus. You responded wrong. Okay, here we go. Hang on. We're scrolling up because now I seem like I'm crazy and I'm not. You misread half the shit I'm saying. Like, you can't do this, man. We already got a stereotype, but 1 foot out the door, dog. You cannot. You need to read, bro. Holy Jesus. Okay, where is it at? We're going to do this the easy way. We're going to type in Devil Joe, because that's the easiest way to do it. All right, I said. So, to your point, you said same in every new gen Monster Hunter. No content was missing. We got a full game and a full roster without any title updates. Now, this, I gotta say, this is complete genius on your part. You're bringing up this part of the video. You only spoke about something like that. You spoke about this. You didn't start up here. You just spoke about this. right? I said, I haven't seen anything about people saying Devil Joe was supposed to be present at launch in World, but Rise not having the rest of its game at launch and Wilds not having Zoshia at launch are definitely unfortunate decisions. It was not you, it was me. I said that shit, nigga. That was me. On God, everything I fucking know, bruh. I said in response to that, Devil Joe, I hadn't seen anything about it. Because that would be the first thing people would complain about is the title updates, correct? Because that was in response to me saying live service-esque model, limited time events quests, some features being locked unless you're playing like online with bounties, event quests, and title updates most likely to do power creep, blah, 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 right? Fill in missing content, etc. I was saying to response to your response. Holy Jesus. Like I'm arguing with the tourist. It's killing me on the inside, bro. It's destroying me on the inside here.
It wasn't. They never said that. You said originally that you thought World was supposed to have it as an example of incomplete content that World had. No.
And you know what's the worst part? Do you know what's the worst part about this? You know what's the worst part about this? It's not edited. You just can't read. And now you're getting mad at an assumption. You made an assumption about me in your mind and you're mad at that assumption. Thus you're mad at me. I didn't say that. I said I never saw anything about Devil Joe being missing. And then I proceed to say, but Rise and Wilds. It's like this is the hardest fucking equation in the planet. This and this, I don't get it. Yeah, we're definitely on that. We're definitely Huey and Riley. You know I'm Huey. You're making me get to this point. You know you're Riley. You're making me get there.
There was never an announcement. There was never anything like that said that Devil Yo was supposed to be a launch title monster for Monster Hunter World, and they delayed it because it was an incomplete game. That's not a proven fact, and I asked you to prove that, and you can't because it's not a proven fact.
You didn't ask me to prove. You know, I say this a lot, dog. I say this a lot, but damn. We're going right back to it. Okay. Same in every new gen Monster Hunter. No content was missing. We got a full game and a full roster without any title updates. I said I haven't seen anything about that. Blah, 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 blah. We're going to come back to this. Rise didn't have a completed game because it was developed during COVID. Every other Monster Hunter game was completed. You heard Devil Joe. I did not hear Devil Joe. I said I didn't hear. You can't read. Was supposed to be a world, but do you have any proof? Okay. All right. We're going down. Here we are. It should be somewhere in here. There we go. I know you didn't watch my video again, but I explicitly state that Rise wasn't complete on launch because of COVID, but even if I love the game, I'd still criticize that because we didn't get the true 1.0 until much later. I never said Devil Joe was supposed to be in Wilds. I meant to say whatever. I'm saying that World had Devil Joe teased as a title update, but I didn't see erratic posts stating it was in the files already as much as I am seeing complete assets for monsters in the files of Wilds and launch, such as Zoshia, Lagiacrus, and a few others. Sorry for the spoilers, bro. Do you understand when you call me disingenuous? I am not a mirror. I'm not a mirror. You a lying ass nigga. Bro, for real, God, on God, bro, because there's no way you are going to literally sit here and say, you're putting this in your video, and you know people don't go for context. I'm pulling up from receipts. You're clipping this. You're clipping that. That's all you're clipping. And I'm the disingenuous one. I'm the disingenuous one. Are you out of your fucking mind? Are you crazy? What are you talking about? You're out here lying out your ass, and you're talking about me talking out my ass. Bro, my shit smells better than yours. Fuck are you on? The hell is all this? I can't believe. First, I find out you're a tourist. Second, you lying on everything on God. And I don't understand. This is the Boondocks. We're living in a parody, bro.
As an example to show that World was an incomplete game, and I was telling you that it was not an incomplete game because of Devil Yo, because Devil Yo was never teased. That's my point. And now I'm telling you that Wilds is all.
Watch this. You're gonna love this shit, bro. Watch this. I could be the better man. I could be the better man right now, and I can stop making this video. I could be the better man, and I can leave it alone. But my dude, you are not that guy. You only play World and Wilds. You are a tourist nigga at best, bro. I've been living in this shit. I've been here. Maybe not as long as some other people. I've been here since 2013. I have played every game on launch since. And I own, I'm gonna put up a picture for your ass too. I own every motherfucking game, bro. I got 2 PS2s. I have 2 PS2s. I have a regular and a Japanese one. I play this shit. My guy, I know. Only thing I've ever been wrong about was the change of the release date. But you are lying on me. And you call me disingenuous. Does that not make sense? Does that make any sense to you? Is it any of that clicking right now as we're talking about this? Because I'm talking about this. Does any of that click?
Also, not an incomplete game because there was nothing that was teased that wasn't. You could say Lagiacrus was in the data mines, but data mine does not mean that it was in.
He was abruptly in the files. The armor is complete. He was in the files. Seregios. Zoshia. They were there. They were all... Ooh, Jesus. That was that cran grape.
That it has to be in the game. That's why it's called a data mine. Yeah, you can see as many complete assets as you want, but as long as they replace that asset with another asset, which is probably what they did, which is why they didn't release Lagiacrus. Lagiacrus would take too much time to release. As long as they replace...
Lagiacrus has taken like almost 10 years now, actually. It's been like a long time since they were working on that shit.
It with a monster, and we got a full roster. I could see if we had a roster of like 20 monsters. Okay, 15 monsters.
That's what happened
to
to Try.
Okay,
you never played Try?
We had a full roster, dude. Stop it, man. And each monster...
And again, because you're not tackling the point that I'm making. I never said anything about a full roster. I'm saying that there's missing monsters. The roster, yes, okay, I get it. I'm saying that there are monsters that should have been there on launch as they should have. And Zoshia should have been there on launch as a replayable fight, not just a one-time thing. Lagiacrus probably should have been there. Seregios probably should have been there. The full roster thing, the roster's fine. Only problem I have with the roster is the Guardian monsters because they're too easy to fight. But roster's fine. As far as numbers go, as far as it being out there, it's fine. Except the fact that they didn't have Zoshia replayable, and I'm still gonna hold on to that. Maybe those other monsters, maybe they should have been in the game if all their assets are complete. Right? That's just me. Okay? I'm tired of getting games that are sold to me now, and then I have to wait to get the rest of the game later. Tired of
every single monster was unique. Every single monster was fun. Every single monster has great design. Everything. Every monster interacts with the environment. Everything that's there. The greatest roster in Monster Hunter history. Objectively, fact.
Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate had the best roster. It could have been Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate if they had added in all the subspecies. Could have been the best roster. Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate has the best roster. And that's not a objective fact. That's not an objective speaking from this. If you see that roster, you can be like, God damn. That shit was stacked on launch. Now, the only problem that Monster Hunter 4 had was that Silver Rathalos, Fatalis, and some other monsters weren't. They were just event quests. And I still think that was the stupidest choice. They were event quests that were released later, but they were in the base game, except White Fatalis. White Fatalis was not. But that was a stupid decision on their part. Either way,
will fight you to the death. There's no Monster Hunter game that has a better roster than this one. Stop. It doesn't feel like a complete game when Shia can be hunted in the story but isn't replayable or have any equipment until a month later in the title update with its assets were already in and Zoe with its assets were already in the files. So basically, he's talking about the final boss of the game. When the final boss first came out, you can only fight it in the final mission, and then you couldn't fight it again. And everyone was up in arms about that. It was the end of the world, and no armor connected to it. It was just the worst thing ever. How could we ever possibly live without that? How could we ever possibly live without being able to repeat the final boss in the Monster Hunter game? It's just unheard of, unfathomable. The game is now a 0 out of 10. That makes sense, right?
Again, my nigga, you are so fucking annoying, my dude. Look, it is a aspect of it that drops the score for me, because this sets a precedent when you start to recognize similar behavior. Okay? That sucks. All Mother Narwa not being you wouldn't even know what that is. I'm gonna put a picture on the screen because you wouldn't even know what that is. All Mother Narwa was not present on the game's launch, but we got to fight regular Narwa. Regular Narwa still had armor. So you're telling me we are just okay with not having an end game boss? We're just okay with certain monsters just not having any, you can fight it, but you can't get nothing off of it? That's the point of the game, dipshit. That's the point of the game. You play it. You go to hunt monsters. You kill the monsters. You make gear out of their bodies. Then you go to kill something stronger. And the loop repeats. That's the gameplay loop. That's how it works. When every single Monster Hunter game that has come before it has had an endgame boss that you can craft armor off of, from the first to, well, Rise, guess, because Wilds didn't do that, there's a problem. That's an issue. That's an issue that could become a problem later because people were comfortable, or at least people still bought the game. So then it's like, oh, well, we're still guaranteed to make a success. I don't want to see the next Monster Hunter game come out with a fucking monster that's missing. The hell are you talking about? We already have that in other fucking AAA games and everything like that. Well, then, I forgot. You probably wouldn't know that. You probably play like 2K or Grand Theft Auto or some shit, so it probably don't even matter. But for games, you don't want that. You don't need to be complacent with getting shoveled shit. That's not how that works. That's not how that should work.
Okay, you couldn't fight Zosia again at the launch. All right. You couldn't get armor off Zosia at the launch. Okay, that's enough to justify 6 out of 10. So here we go, guys. On his list of justifying 6 out of 10, we have not being able to repeat fight the final boss, plus he doesn't have armor, and having to watch a few cutscenes that he doesn't want to watch.
You're almost there.
6 out of 10. Come on, man. So next he goes.
See, and that's what I'm saying. You are such a fucking bastard. All you bring up is a 6 out of 10. That's why I said in my comment, I think you're fixated on the 6 out of 10. That's it. But you won't hear out anything else. That's the crazy part.
Goes into the topic of in-game grinding loop, right? A lot of people have a concern about this because
Yes.
when the game first launched, there was this thing called Artian weapons, which in other
They're still
previous
there.
Monster Hunter titles that I know of, there weren't really much grind and like this. It wasn't much grinding in the in-game. It's pretty much
Oh God, oh God, oh God. One sec. We're whipping out the collection, okay? We are whipping out the collection. Mm-hmm. All right. These two games. Monster Hunter 1, Monster Hunter G. The gameplay loop for that, again, kill monster, get better armor, fight stronger monster, get better gear, okay? Endgame loop was fighting stronger monsters. Stronger monsters would unlock after you kill certain monsters. That's how that works, right? This was basic. This is the start. There was no talismans, no nothing. It was just boom, get to Fatalis, Lao Shan Lung, call it a day. It's over. All right. You do the same thing as you would in the first game. Same thing with these two. These are the PSP games. Same shit. Get to stronger monsters. I had to buy everything. You know, I'm that guy. Anyway, same thing. You kill them all, right? You get talisman. All right. Same thing with these. Once again, Monster Hunter 3, Monster Hunter Portable Third, Monster Hunter Tri. You go through the game, talismans, stronger monsters. All right, let's do it. We're back. We're now into the era of endgame insanity. You now have Monster Hunter 4 and Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. Why is my phone going off? You now have these two games. Do you know what they added in? Not only did you have to grind talismans, you had to fight guild quests. If you don't know what guild quests are, it's monsters that you fight. It's investigations, basically, right? You would fight these monsters in curated quests that you would earn by going off on expeditions in order to kill monsters, to get expedition monsters turned into guild quests, to which then you would fight them repeatedly until you got their level up to a certain level that you would fight them to the end game so you could get special weapons, special armor, and better talismans. That's it. And it was annoying. Because then they added in the frenzy mechanic, which then made the monsters go fucking crazy. And if you were fighting an Apex level 140 monster in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, you could get one shot for making one mistake. And you're like, oh, well, there goes my 2 other chances of getting that miracle talisman. Might as well try again. Monster Hunter Generations. This was actually the first, yeah. Monster Hunter Generations, right? The end game, hyper monsters, talismans, deviants. That's it. You would fight the deviants from level 1 to 10, call it a day, right? Then you would get better talismans. Then you would fight hyper monsters to make better gear because they gave you X and XRs. Alrighty, now we're moving on to Generations Ultimate. I got double crossed. That's the Japanese version. That's the one I first played before the Generations came over to America. So, the end game for that, again, is deviants going from level 1 to 15 now. And then you had to still fight hyper monsters and get talismans. Cool. Okay, what's the end game of the world? No, this is wild. It's trash. Get that shit out of my way. World. The end game for world was you would fight monsters. You would do investigations. Excuse me. Yeah, there were investigations. Sorry. You would do investigations. If you needed monster parts to complete items or to complete gear or whatever the fuck you want to call it, you would get those. You would tear them out. You would get the higher chance of getting them. Great. If you got it, fantastic. If you didn't, well, you got to go and kill another monster to hopefully you get an investigation for Diablo so that you can get his Wyvern gem. Great. Cool. Then the other side of it was fighting tempered monsters to get stream stones. And then you would use those to augment your weapons. Then you had to fight tempered elder dragons, to which then you had to fight Balthazar, Kushala, Teostra, tempered, and then hope to God you got a stream stone for the weapon that you use. Because if you didn't, ooh, it was so frustrating. All right. Iceborne, right? World had title updates, but World's title updates didn't change the end game outside of just fighting better monsters for better gear. However, my main issue with this game is that, unfortunately, because it had a live service-esque model, it presented monsters that were just better every time, to which the gear had to be better as well, to which then everybody would just go to fight that for FOMO, because most of them were like event quests and things like that, and then you would get the better gear, to which then you would be able to, I don't know, fight a better monster when that title update comes out. Then Iceborne comes out. I don't have the box for Iceborne, unfortunately. I should look into getting that because I can't call myself a true collector if I miss out on that. I may not have liked World, but I am a collector. So, here we are on wrong game. Monster Hunter Rise. We're here on Monster Hunter Rise. What was the end game for base Rise? It was Rampage quests, so you can make Rampage weapons and collecting talismans by basically spam fighting Narwhal because she had the best yield. You can fight any monster you want, but you had to fight Narwhal to get the best yield. Whatever. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak comes out. I pulled the collector's edition off of my thing up there. I've got 3 of them, right? I've got Rise. I've got the Nintendo Switch version for Rise. I've got the Sunbreak collector's edition. I've got the Rise collector's edition. And then I've got the Stories 2 collector's edition. For Rise Sunbreak, the end game had to be given to us in a title update, which I do not like. I don't like that shit. That's stupid as fuck. So we had to be drip fed stronger monsters. It started with like level 1 monsters and then moved up. And so you had to kill them to get their materials, their anomaly materials, so you could upgrade or augment your weapon. And then you had to wait for that next title update. And that was the end game, right? And then you had the augmenting armor, and then you had the Curios Talisman. Those were the end games. Monster Hunter Wilds, you have to... Look, Tokina says that his end game idea is that you would run around the map and just kill monsters all day. Just run around the map and kill monsters all day. That's fine. If monsters immediately spawn, maybe you could do that, but they don't. You can wipe out an entire population and then stand in the fucking aftermath and no monster would spawn. If you were good enough. If you were good enough. Now, the Artian weapons. I'm going to explain Artian weapons because I already know I'm going to listen to the next part of this video and you're just not going to get what I was fucking saying. Artian weapons. They're made from Artian materials, discs, devices, blah, 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 that you would get from fighting tempered monsters. There's rarity 6, 7, 8. Okay, so when you're doing those fights, you have a chance to get the material that you need for the particular weapon you're trying to create, plus an element, plus what you call them, attack type. So it would be attack, and then it'd be affinity. The problem does not come from having to fight those or to get those. The problem stems from what you have to fight to get them. You fight Gore, you fight Arkveld, you fight the Apexes to get rarity 8 pieces. If you do not feel like engaging with that content, you can fight lower level monsters like a Chatacabra. You can fight a Tempered Chatacabra 100 times. You can fight a Balahara. You can fight anything that is that you want. It doesn't have to be them. But you can take them to the Melder and Suja and turn those rarity 6s and 7s into rarity 8s for a cost. Correct? That's how that end game works. It's frustrating because the base weapons that they made are not good enough to stand up against what Artian weapons can do. Just because they have equipment skills attached doesn't mean that they're better than an Artian weapon that has 3 level 3 slots. That's just not how that works. You can outclass any weapon with that. Then you literally have to sit there, use the Artian weapons. You don't have to. And again, I emphasize this greatly. You don't have to play with Artian weapons. You can engage with that content. But if you want to engage with that content, you have to play the Artian weapons because they're stronger. That's how that works. Then Zoshia came and Zoshia rivals Artian weapons. But that's still the issue, is that here we are fighting these monsters, and it gets a little bit repetitive, just a little bit, just like all the other games. Every game's end game was a problem. Every single game that I listed there was a problem because you had to do specific things. And if you want to be efficient, when you are just playing the game to play the game, you're probably going to put thousands and thousands of hours in. You're probably not even going to engage with the end game the same way that other people might. And that's okay. But if you want to engage with what was created, you need to get to Fatalis. You need to get to Lao Shanlong. You need to get to Kieran. If you want to, well, now Kieran shows up randomly, so that's not really a good example. But Lao Shanlong and Fatalis, those were basically the big boys, right? And then when you had to do things like this, it was the same thing. Okay, well, now here you are. You have to unlock the endgame monster. You're fighting out whatever the heck it was. You have to get to Alatreon, which means you need to complete every village quest, to which you can then unlock Alatreon for the village, which you had to fight solo. That's fine. Whatever. If you want to engage with that content, that's great. But if you don't, you don't have to, right? So then you come up to these other games, and if you want the stronger weapons, you have to fight guild quests. Guild quests were annoying. Every game was annoying. Everything had a bad end game. The Artian materials are poorly implemented. They are. There's no shame in admitting that. They're just terrible. And it's so bad to say that because they're so strong, but they encompass a lot of the end game. Oh my God. I hope you're learning something from this video. I hope, because you don't know me like that, but all of my videos are educational. They're all educational. I promise. A lot of them are just discussions. Well, some of them are discussions. A lot of them are educational videos. I label them as discussions. I should probably label them as guides, but
once you got your in-game gear and wait for title updates. It was pretty simple. And this isn't like the end of the world grind. It's just a little RNG grind that a lot of people don't like. Some people do, some people don't. It is what it is. I don't really like it that much. But I do appreciate that they tried to put something in the game to give you something to do while you wait for title updates. I appreciate the effort. I just feel like they could have maybe done a little bit more to make it a little bit more engaging. I feel like a few tweaks would have made it a little bit better, but it's fine with me, right? It's not the end of the world. And I definitely don't like that they're ugly as hell and no layer weapons. I don't like that for sure. I agree with that criticism. That's justified criticism, but that's not what he's talking about here. What he's talking about is the ways, the fact that you have to fight the same monsters over and over again in order to get the best rewards, in order to farm for the Artian weapons that they hate so fucking much that they don't want to farm for. Anyways, yeah, you can farm Artian weapons on any monster in Monster Hunter. You can do it. All you have to do is join in an investigation or find an investigation, whatever you want to do, that has another monster attached to either a 7-star or 8-star Apex. That's all you have to do, and you will be able to farm Artian weapons to your heart consent, and you'll be able to fight every single monster in the game. Every single monster in the game can be tied to this. And how do I know this? Because I've done it, and I fought every single monster in the game. You don't have to just do the only investigation that pops up and just do that one and then complain. You can pick other investigations. Now, would it have been nice that they had it the way it's going to be in the near future when they update the game and make it where all monsters, all Apex monsters are A-stars, and then we have a lot more variety? Yes, of course. But at the end of the day, there was variety there from the beginning. There was a justifiable reason to farm every single monster in Monster Hunter from the launch of Monster Hunter Wilds. There was a reason to do it. And for some reason, he keeps going back and saying, yeah, I know you can go and pick the weaker monsters and upgrade the materials, but that's inefficient. That's not what I'm talking about. You don't have to do that. Look at what I'm doing here. You can find monsters fighting. You can fight them and grind 8, rarity 7, whatever you want to call it, the max rank Artian materials. You can do that. I'm showing you it here. So you don't have to just fight Arkveld. I know that's what people say online, but if you play the game, you don't have to do that. And everyone who plays the game knows this. So this criticism is completely invalid. And this is what I'm talking about. This is one of your talking points. This is one of the reasons why this game could get a 6 out of 10, and it's not even true. It's not even true. But even if it was true, even if it were true that you can only hunt 8 stars to get 8-star Artians and you could not hunt anything else, so we would be stuck with Arkveld, it would still not be justifiable to give the game a 6 out of 10. It still would not be. That's the crazy part. But it's not even true. It's not even true. Wow. And then he goes into, which I think is the complete objective slam dunk of the game, where he says, I don't want the game to become complete over time by them adding updates, because they did that in the past. So I feel like that's what they're going to do here, which is obviously a fallacy. You cannot judge a game based on your premonitions of what's going to happen, right? That's not how you do things. You have to judge things for what they are, right? I mean, I'm sure we all can agree there.
Everybody who's played the game so far, have I been wrong? No, I have not. That's the worst part. I know Tokudo's directing style. I followed World. I know his directing style.
And he even agrees to that at some point. And he says he doesn't want to be paranoid of something happening if it never does. Despite my weariness, it seems that some of what I was saying has come true already. Okay, so basically what you're saying is them updating the game is a negative now. Do you understand what you're saying? This is what I mean by bias. You're saying that
you're getting mad. You're making an assumption, then you're getting mad at the assumption, and now you're mad at me. Here's the thing. I'm literally saying that what they're going to do is, rather than having the game as is on launch and carrying on from there, they're going to drip feed the rest of the game through these title updates. Talismans that could be completed. Instead of giving us new ones, we have to wait to get upgrades for our current ones. That's just an example. That's a example. Decorations that can't be made until X monster gets fought, but the skill is already present in the game, so on and so forth.
That them adding to the game is a negative, because the game was incomplete before. So every launch title, Monster Hunter, should never get updates? Is that what you're saying? This game shouldn't get any more updates? It should have just came with the title updates and the fucking GU, the Master Rank expansion? It should have just launched like that? Is that what you're saying? Like, what is your argument?
I wish you were actually much smarter than you lead yourself on to be. But when I say these things, I say that I much prefer a game to come out feature complete, and these title updates shouldn't give us something that should have been there already, but they should expand upon what we already have in a meaningful way. I don't mean that latent power should be a level 2 decoration until Arc Tempered Radow comes out, to which then it can be upgraded to level 3. I don't mean that when, and this happened in World, certain decorations were not capable of being maxed because you had to wait until the title update / master rank for it to actually go up a single level. A lot of that stuff is very frustrating to experience. A lot of that stuff is weird because, again, when you look at other games, they've got their decorations in place. They've got their talismans. They know exactly what's going to happen. When you play that game, that's that. Right? And it's great when you pick up Monster Hunter 4 and then you play 4 Ultimate. It's great when you play Monster Hunter Generations. You go to Generations Ultimate. It's great that when you're in Generations, you understand that you can only make X amount of skills, whatever. You can have the level 3s, you can have these skills and everything like that. Then you get to G rank and they give you the other ones, right? Like critical boost level 3, critical boost level 1.
Argument here. Obviously, they're going to update and make the game better. That's what happens with a live service game. The last like 3 Monster Hunters have all been live service. This is not new. This is not new at all. So we know they're going to do this. The question is, when the game launched, was it a full complete package? Yes, it was. Objectively, it was. There was nothing missing that ruined the gameplay loop. There was nothing missing from any other previous Monster Hunter games that, in terms of content, in terms of quality of life, in terms of things you may like or dislike, sure. But that's not what Monster Hunter is about. Monster Hunter is about hunting monsters. Did this game come with environments to hunt the monsters in? Yes. Did this game come with monsters to hunt in those environments? Yes. Did this game come with all the weapons? Yes. So what are we missing? Things that you personally don't like, maybe the next person doesn't like, tracking, for example. You might love tracking. I know people that hate it.
I don't.
So it's not objectively required for tracking to be in a Monster Hunter game, which I'm going to get into later. But that's just an example of something that you may like, other people don't. It is not a requirement. As you can obviously see with Wilds, it's not a requirement for the game to function. And
it's like he's so close. It's like his 2 brain cells are finally about to connect. They're about to come in together and then make a coherent thought. Like he's almost there. I don't like that aspect. I don't. And that's okay. And someone else can like it and they can be totally fine with it. You're almost there. It's
as long as the game
it's
functions,
mesmerizing how you can be so close and so far.
Within its bounds, within what the developers are aiming for, then that's all that matters. And that's why you can't give it a 6 out of 10, because it succeeds at doing that at least a level of an 8 out of 10, at least. And then it goes into UI. I don't really want to go into UI because that's subjective, but the UI is
because you'd be wrong.
Completely and totally functional, and everything that you need it to do is completely and totally functional. And maybe there are ways that the older Monster Hunters did the UI that are more functional or better for their systems, but not for Wilds, or maybe they are better. But even if they were better, even if the UI were, let's say, very bad, right? It's a bad UI. Okay, whatever. Does that justify 6 out of 10?
This is oh my god, the 6 out of 10, bro. The 6 out of 10, bro. 6 out of 10, bro. It's like you're the only one with a stick up his ass about the 6 out of 10, my nigga. Yes, it makes it a 6 out of 10 for me. It does. That UI is clanky as fuck. There's a combination of things that are problematic with the game that just makes it unenjoyable. I give it a 6 out of 10. Get the fuck over it.
Justify 6 out of 10,
You're
guys.
good.
If I add that, if I give him that, then I say, yeah, the UI is horrible.
It is.
God, it sucks. 6 out of 10, bro?
Yeah.
For a bad UI? Come on, man. And then he goes into a tangent on other things that he just considers that make the game worse. And I want to read some of them as a combination of some of these elements alongside a few other things like my weapons gameplay. I don't know what his weapon is, but I know some weapons weren't received so well. Some weapons were. But I mean, again, that's subjective. As long as the weapon can hunt, as long as the weapon can kill monsters, it functions. Just because of that.
You the type of nigga that will say, well, just, the house has 4 walls. It doesn't need a roof. That's you're so complacent with things that the weapon combat and the monster combat makes the game. It does. It makes the game. And when that experience isn't so great, a lot of people say, "Oh, well then just play a different weapon." Nah. Nah. That's the weapon I want to play. That thing is not fun. I'm not going to tell you what my weapon is, because if you paid attention, you might have known.
It doesn't function like a previous game doesn't mean it's automatically bad. It's just your preference. And then he says, the core system mechanics of wounds. What is wrong with wounds? Please, God, tell me what's wrong with
A lot.
them. I really would love to know. What is the...
All right, because I know you started in a world, I don't think, you are the exact definition of what I call a worldlet. You don't know. But Monster Hunter has a very, very, very tight combat system. It's so good. There's so much that you can do, and there's so much you don't know. And when you find that stuff out, it's phenomenal, right? So here's the problem that wounds have, right? Back then, you used to fight monsters. Your sharpness mattered. Your weapon mattered. Where you hit the monster, that stuff mattered. You weren't rewarded just because you kept hitting the monster. You were rewarded, yes, for hitting the monster. If you kept hitting them, obviously they're going to die. Obviously going to lose health. Obviously they're going to flinch, topple, all this other stuff. You weren't rewarded with more damage just because you did that, though. And not only that, the flinch thresholds, all of that stuff is thrown out of whack because you can automatically CC stun the monster with a focus strike or just by popping the wound, which is extraordinarily easy to do. All that stuff takes away from the aspect that Monster Hunter used to have. And you might not know that because, again, you're a worldlet. You played World. You didn't even play Rise. You didn't play the other games. You have not seen those experiences. And if you have played those games, again, I'm really trying not to assume here. You're talking out of your ass here. If you have not seen those fucking games, you would not understand. There is an extremely, extremely profound level of depth that is missing from Wild's core gameplay loop. When I hunt those monsters, that shit is just simple as fuck. You just create a wound, flinch them. Create a wound, flinch them. And if I was looking, if that Shia gameplay that you posted earlier, somewhere around in the 2-minute mark, if that's anything to go by, yeah, I don't think you would get that. You wouldn't get that.
The problem with wounds. I already know what you're going to say. It makes the game easier. I can topple monster easier. So what?
You thought you were fucking smart. You dumb as shit, nigga. Ah.
So what if it makes the game easier? If it makes it better, if it makes it easier for you to punish the monster because you know how to effectively apply wounds, you know how to effectively dodge, you know how to effectively punish the monster, and it makes it easier for you to topple it, so what? That's the point. It's supposed to get easier as you get better. You're supposed to have ways to punish the monster. That's the whole point of Monster Hunter. That's the whole point. Like what? What is the problem with wounds? Please tell me. I would love to know. Please tell me. If it makes the game easier, then why don't you run heroics? All these guys.
If I ran heroics, I would slaughter these monsters. If I ran heroics, it wouldn't even be a fucking fight.
Guys talking about the game is so easy. The game is so easy. But they would never make a heroic set. Why not? Heroics, for those who don't know, Monster Hunter, non-Monster Hunter fans, is basically when you put on a set of armor that gives you an extreme power boost. It makes you the strongest set in the game objectively by far, by a large margin. But in order for it to work, you have to keep your health. You have to get hit by the monster or take damage in some form of way and have your health stay very, very low, basically to where the next hit will kill you. Basically, you'll be in one-shot range, right? That's how, and when you do that, you get an extreme power boost. That's how you can make the game way more difficult, and you can get rewarded for it. You can actually get rewarded for making the game more difficult on yourself, unlike other games like Elden Ring or any other solo games where usually they don't make the game, they don't reward you for making the game harder. It's just a way to challenge yourself. It's just to make the game more challenging for yourself.
Would you be surprised to know that there are items and spells and stuff like that in Elden Ring and Dark Souls that do take your health down extraordinarily low and then give you an attack boost for it? That's also heroics. But I've said this before. Asmongold said this in one of his videos about Monster Hunter. I can't remember which one it was. Or not Monster Hunter. It was I saw it in a video because he was talking about Monster Hunter, but here's the thing. I'm not caring about making the game easy. The wounds take away from a staple of the combat, by how tight and precise things were. Just like how focus mode and focus strikes takes away from that. That's how that works. That's just.
So, but you could do both. You can make the game more challenging and you can do more damage to the monster, so you get rewarded for it. But none of these guys will do that because the game's so easy. None of these guys will ever put on a heroic set under any circumstance, but it's so easy, right? Give me a fucking break, man. Give me a fucking break. He says tracking. Okay, I said I was going to talk about tracking. So like I said, tracking was not a catch-all be-all. Not everyone loved tracking. I can tell you for a fact, not everyone loved tracking. And I know I liked it at the beginning. I really did. But once you realize every monster, for each quest you pick, every monster has a set path. It's not random. It's not RNG. They go this place, then they go that place. They start here, they spawn here, then they go here, then they go here, then they go here. Every single time. So there's no point in tracking. If you're being honest, right? You play World a lot, then you know tracking is pointless. You know it because you don't have to track each quest. You start the quest, you know where the monster is because you already did this quest. I know exactly where he spawns. He spawns right there. I'm just gonna run to him. I don't need the marks. That's what will happen. And I'm sure Capcom saw that. So what's the point of having a system that doesn't work that way? Now you could say they could have enhanced it. They could have made it more difficult to track monsters. They could have made monsters spawn in random locations and move to random spots like they kind of did in Wilds, which is, they kind of did it. I mean, sometimes they do spawn in the same place. It's definitely more varied in Wilds than it was in World, right? But the crux of the issue is people just didn't find it fun. That's just the facts. People didn't find tracking fun. And what you need, and tracking is just an example of this greater issue that a lot of Monster Hunter players in the Monster Hunter community who complain about WoWs need to understand. Not everything has to be made for you. Not everything has to be tailored for you, okay? Monster Hunter is trying to appease more people and give people more of a reason to play it and enjoy the gameplay flow, which is hunting monsters, fighting monsters. Okay, I know people call it Monster Fighter, but some of the best fights in the history of Monster Hunter were in arenas anyway. Fatalis was in an arena. I didn't hear you complaining then that you couldn't track Fatalis. Elatrion, I didn't hear you complaining about that. So why is it such a big deal for you? It's just because it's different, because you missed that. You missed that feeling when you first played WoW the first time and you were like, oh, I don't know where anything is. Sorry, World for the first time. You're like, I don't know where anything is. Oh my God, I got to track this monster. I got to figure out where this monster is. You missed that, and that's okay to miss that. It's fine. It's natural. But you need to understand that you missing that is not something that's making this game worse. It's making World better. It's making that experience what you had with World better. It's something you can reminisce on and look back fondly. But that doesn't mean that every Monster Hunter game has to follow that formula. That's just not fair. And the same goes with any other feature that you can come up with that doesn't affect the core gameplay, of hunted monsters. Every other feature that you can come up with that was in the past that is not present in Wilds, it's the same argument for all of them. And all this was enough to make the game less enjoyable for the experience that he had before it. Okay.
I don't know if he was talking about me when I said tracking, because I know he likes to say he has a belief on what it is that I think about things. And it's because he's using a general interpretation, right? Here's my thing, right? Wild's tracking is very different from World's tracking. And my primary problem that comes from tracking in Wilds is that your Seikret is difficult to control. That thing, like, if you don't want it to auto move, I have it disabled for auto movement. Sometimes it'll try to automatically move anyway. I don't want to go that way. I want to go this way, right? It makes it very frustrating. It makes me very, it's a terrible experience, especially when you're trying to run after a particular monster. You get on your Seikret and the Seikret's auto moving. I have that shit disabled. I just have hold circle to grab onto my Seikret, and my Seikret's supposed to take me. I don't have the up whistle thingy. I don't do that. But it's very frustrating to deal with, right? And the other part of it is, why have tracking in this game if you don't need to do so? You feel me? Rise did it where you just throw your owl up at the beginning of the quest. Everything on the map, you know where it's at. I'm not saying that's a great idea. but Wild is basically the same. You just open the map, you know where all the things are moving. We got a psychic map around here. That's whatever. Like and again, it's made for certain people. That's fine. I don't have to engage with that. The problem is that I'm forced to engage with it when my Seikret decides I want to go this way. Like stop moving, stop. Like I called you to go this way. We're going this way. And then, sometimes I'll be sitting there and I'm like holding up because I took off the auto. Like I'm glad they have that in the settings. I took off the auto movement, bro. Get that shit out of here. And my Seikret will sometimes still just go in those directions. And that's not something I enjoy. And I have to put that out there because that's just your idea of what I think tracking is and my actual disliking of tracking. Very different, man. Very different.
So nothing made it more enjoyable then. Not the most amazing environments ever created in Monster Hunter history and some of the most amazing environmental features in gaming, period. That didn't do it. The fact that when Duna does a belly dive on water and the wave splashes you away. You've never been moved by a wave in a video game before, a wave of water.
I don't think he plays video games like that, dog. I don't think he's like that.
It's never happened. It's the first time it's ever happened in gaming history. That I'm aware of, anyway.
Never mind. Yeah, there you go. You're not.
That was not interesting to you. That didn't add. You're only talking about what took away. You're only talking about what got added. You're only talking about when Raydal does a rail gun, fire attack on the sand, and the sand makes a rock, the Fulgurite rock. Yeah. You're only talking about that. You don't want to talk about how Duna has multiple tendons that are all able to be cut off and act independently of one another. You don't want to talk about how Jin Dahad moves around the map and is basically a fucking Final Fantasy boss fight.
Yeah, no, they need to stop with this. They need to stop with raid fights like Jin Dahad. They need to stop with that. Those fights are so fucking annoying, dude. And like he said, some of the best fights are found in arena. Just put me in arena with Jin Dahad. You could have the little icicles drop, us try to avoid him going up on the top. You could just leave it there. He doesn't have to move. He really doesn't have to move. Here's the thing, though. And again, you don't know what you don't know. Duna and Balahara, my two favorite monsters in Monster Hunter Wilds. I love those things. They're so fucking cool. Oh, God, I love Duna. I love fighting Duna in the plenty. Oh, if you've never done that, bro, the environment looks fucking sick. I even say that in my video. I love the environments. The environments are fucking gorgeous. But again, you didn't watch my video. So now you're making up something in your head, attacking me because of it. This is what do we call this again? Like what's that thing that I said about world and why a pattern? You're seeing familiar behavior. I know how Tokena directs. I'm starting to understand how you act. You're not there, man. You're not 100% there.
You don't want to talk about how Arkveld is an amazingly designed monster, one of the most unique monster designs of all time. And uses his chains in a battle in a way that makes him very unique and very. You don't want to talk about that.
Every monster in a game has a unique monster. Brachydios, introduced in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, licks his hand to put mold that explodes, and he fucking punches. That's baller. I expect the monsters to be unique. I expect them to be crazy. I expect to see my endgame monsters look fucking wild. Narwa, out there from flying with the predator jaw, summoning out thunder. You can have simple monsters like Fatalis. It is what Fatalis can do that makes Fatalis great, not what Fatalis looks like. And sure, Arkveld can sling his stuff around, right? That's cool. It's cool, right? Rajong punches you very hard. And I'd still pick Monkey over Arkveld, but that doesn't mean Arkveld's not cool. Nobody's saying that shit. New Udra, the fact that they put New Udra and Zhu Wu in this game and they've got Octopi because they said that they were trying to make octopi monsters for a long time. Generations, excuse me, we got Nakarkos. Nakarkos is the closest thing we had to octopus because they had individual tentacles that just acted as arms with bone dragons and things like that on there. That's a cool monster. But when I talk about Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, I don't talk about how Nakarkos looks. It doesn't matter. I don't care. That's great. The monsters should be uniquely designed, each and every one. And then we got a rabbit who slides on his stomach. We got a bear who's got a fat ass and eats honey. We have a literal armadillo that shoots its tongue out super far and rolls as a ball. That's cool. They're all the same skeleton too. That's cool, but I'm not gonna focus in on one or two. It's great that they made these technological leaps. It's great that they're going beyond and everything of that nature. And the environments look terrific. The switch axe effects, terrific. If you'd seen my video, you might have heard all of that. Just might have seen it.
You don't want to talk about how the Seikret changes the gameplay. Completely.
The Seikret, the Seikret's no Palamute, I'll tell you that. But you didn't play Rise, so you wouldn't know.
It changes the gameplay, makes you makes it becomes integrated into the fight in a very helpful way.
What fight?
Whereas in Elden Ring, it was just, riding a horse was just basically to transition, a transportation tool.
That's what a Seikret does. The Seikret gets you from point A to point B. Hell, it'll even take you there yourself. You can put your fucking thing off, jack off, and then by the time you actually start paying attention, you're at the fucking monster. Palamutes changed the gameplay. They fought alongside you. And when you needed to run, I'm out of here. And then you can attack with the Palamutes. The Palamutes were in battle with you. The Seikrets do nothing. They stand off to the side and they're like, what does that do? What does that change? Integrated? Bro. Integrated.
And whilst they retooled the transportation tool and actually made it actually in part of the gameplay more than any mount in the history of gaming.
There's so many games that have mounts that fight alongside you that do more. They do what the Seikret does and more. But you wouldn't know that.
It's definitely in the history of Monster Hunter. You don't want to talk about that. You don't talk about how all the weapons got upgraded and added new features and new changes that made them more powerful, more aggressive. You don't want to talk about that.
I keep forgetting you didn't play Rise. If you played Rise, that would have never come out of your fucking mouth. The only weapon that actually got upgraded like that was Gunlance. Gunlance had the biggest glow up. Every weapon since in this game is a downgrade compared to what happened in Sunbreak. Hell, even base Rise. Except Greatsword maybe, but it's made for the game, not to keep going. Because if you could do what you could do in Sunbreak in this game, dude, you don't know what you don't know, and you're talking about me being disingenuous and talking out of my ass. You know nothing. You don't know shit. I hate to say it. That's why you are a Riley head ass, and I'm a Huey.
You want to talk about the graphics, how amazing they are, the customization, the fact that the game came with layer armor off rip the first time in the history of Monster Hunter. It has objectively the most customization on launch that any Monster Hunter times 100,000. You don't want to talk about that. You don't want to talk about like anything good. It's only the bad things. Only those bad things. Those bad things outweighed everything that I just said here.
If he watched my video.
Are you really being genuine? The best Monster Hunter roster of all time, objectively, on launch, objectively the best roster. Are we, like I said, are we really being genuine here? Like I'm asking, does it sound genuine now? Does what I just said, all that stuff I said, imagine listening to all that stuff I said and saying, yeah, but the menu, the UI is really not that good.
Why are you fixated on the UI?
Yeah, but I mean, I heard what you said. I mean, I get it, right? It's amazing game, one of the most technologically advanced games ever made. But I mean, like the UI, man. Oh yeah, and I couldn't fight the last boss more than once. That was 6 out of 10. Like, Jesus Christ, you guys are the biggest fucking crybabies of all time, man. And I know for a fact, the thing that pisses me off the most about all you guys is you're not gonna stop playing this game. And no matter how much you try to say
I actually did. I have not turned my PS5 on in a hot ass minute. My guy, I haven't even gotten the Elder Dragon scarf thingy. I haven't played since I released my Switch Axe guide. I haven't played since I beat Raidao. I stopped because I'm still playing on my Switch. It's Generations Ultimate still right there. I did. And here's the problem. You think you're so great. Actually, there's only 4 minutes left. I'm just gonna let you talk.
you're gonna take a break. You will be back. You will be back to
Now, you're
Monster
right about
Hunter.
that.
You all
I have
will.
to make content.
We all
I will
know
be
it.
back.
You know it. I know it.
I will.
So stop all the bullshit, okay? Stop all the complaining, all the whining, I'm never touching this game. I'm done with the franchise, brother. Stop it. Who are you fooling? Okay.
I said I'd let you talk.
And if you don't come back, then good for you. I'm happy that you were able to move on from Monster Hunter. This game, I'm happy you were able to move on from Monster Hunter Wilds. This game that just completely ruined your life, ruined the franchise. It's the worst game ever made because the UI is a little funky. Unbelievable, right? And so I don't want to come up as a glazer. You got it to the end of this video, you probably think I'm a fucking Monster Hunter glazer.
Spin on it, why don't you?
I'm sure you probably turn it off by now if you hate my opinions. But for those who heard me out, I don't want to come up as a glazer, okay? I do understand that there are valid criticism to Monster Hunter Wilds, just like there is valid criticism for any game. But the criticism that these guys are levying is not valid. It's simply emotional. It's completely illogical. And I can give an example of a logical criticism about the game. One of my most biggest criticisms about the game is that the way they pitched this game, the way the developers designed this game, is that they wanted people, for those who don't know, they wanted it to be like Guiding Lands, but the whole game be Guiding Lands. And those who don't know, Guiding Lands was like an area in Monster Hunter World where you would just join players, be in lobbies with those players, and just hunt everything that came up. That was like the plan, right? That was the plan. And it worked to an extent, but this was like a much more advanced version of that idea. Unfortunately, they made it impossible to join other players in a world unless you know them personally. And they're your friends and you add them. Otherwise, they made it impossible. There's no like feature to just go out and just join someone's world, right? That's no one does that. Everyone just spams investigations because not only is it more efficient to do that for farming, it also is just impossible to do it the other way. So they really dropped the ball there. I feel like they should have just had lobbies where people join the lobby, and while you're in the lobby, you kill a monster, another monster spawns randomly. You don't have any control of what spawns, and that would have made it a little bit more interesting and actually
that's environment
help assist and facilitate the vision that they clearly wanted for this game, because I'm sure they see now that literally 99% of the player base is just spamming investigations all day. And they're not engaging in the world in the way that they have created it. They're engaging in the way that Monster Hunter has always been, which is just spamming quests. So that is a completely valid criticism about the game, and that actually takes away from the gameplay loop that they had intended on creating for this game specifically, not for any other Monster Hunter for Wilds. So there's an example of an actual criticism, so you can compare it to the criticism that these guys are giving. Compare what I just said to the UI kind of bothers me. Compared to what I just said to, I have to fight the last boss. I want to fight him more than once. And now you can see like the level of criticism. Okay, so yeah, I pretty much got everything I need to say out. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm gonna go play Monster Hunter Wilds because I actually enjoy the game and I think it's a really good game and I have a great time playing it. I'm gonna go have fun. I'm not gonna go complain about everything in the whole world that I don't like all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm just gonna enjoy this game and have a great time with it, and wait for more content and play that too. And then when I get bored, I'm gonna go outside. Simple. All right, peace.
So now that we've reached this point, I've got to say, you are the most audacious piece of shit ever. I don't know, brother. You talk about other people being disingenuous, and yet you are the most disingenuous of them all, right? First off, you didn't hear out the entire video. It would have answered some of the questions that you were, excuse me, not some of the questions. It would have answered some of the assumptions that you were making. You seem like an absolute fucking tourist. And because I feel like you don't know how to read, you probably don't know what that definition is either. You probably play Monster Hunter only for World and Wilds. You've never played another Monster Hunter game ever, ever. Because if you did, you know exactly where I'm coming from. You would know 110%. Yes, you do have to change the game. Yes, you can't constantly sit and do the same thing all the time because then you would just be boring. That'd be like 2K. 2K does the same thing every year. They just add different rosters. Crazy, right? Monster Hunter takes 3 to 4 to 5 years of development. Unfortunately, I think Wilds took like 7. It is what it is, right? Here's the thing. That stuff, that small amount of stuff, the stuff that you keep pointing to, and you're cherry picking the stuff that it is that you're trying to say and convey, and you are fucking awful. Awful for that. You're a spiteful piece of shit, bro. That makes no fucking sense. You're going to call me disingenuous, but you're not going to come at it from a genuine angle. All that stuff, some of that stuff I listed off. You want me to tell you about the things that I did not enjoy about Wilds? Now that I've calmed down, I'm going to speak to this as level-headed as I can. How you frame this video is absolutely despicable, and it's extremely ironic and hypocritical that you would even call me disingenuous when you don't even know or do the bare minimum like watching the video. I saw a comment from Deal on your video saying that certain pieces of media resonate with us, and I think we are blessed for it. I certainly am much more passionate about this series than you, and I can articulate the good and the bad of each and every one of these games and still allow others their peace. P-E-A-C-E before you say it's P-I-E-C-E. I came into this video with the benefit of the doubt that you would even be willing to be remotely honest with your presentation, and I see now that's not the case. So let me tell you why I don't like Monster Hunter Wilds. Switch Axe is my favorite weapon, and from 3 all the way to Generations, the primary goal was to remain in sword mode to deal damage while weaving through monster attacks. If you ran out of gauge, you would either wait or you would find a way to reload manually. World changed that by giving an amp state and allowing morphs to have a more vital role by morphing out of any attack and regenerating while doing so. The game plan remained the same, but you had a new goal of reaching amp state, and meter management was a tad easier, so the weapon truly felt more fluid. Rise came along and cranked this to 11 by introducing more features and emphasis on morphing while also giving axe mode foul bursts during amp state. It played extremely well, so from World to Rise Switch Axe to Wilds is such a jarring experience as the weapon turns this whole notion on its head by emphasizing full release slash and sidelining morph necessity. It no longer felt like a Switch Axe, and it felt more like Gen 4 Charge Blade, where you're just trying to get amped up so you can use your finishing move over and over again. I find that boring compared to all other iterations. Yes, I have a problem with games, not just Monster Hunter, but any game being comfortable releasing in manners like this. The game is clearly going to be better post-launch, and I come from an era where games came out crazy loaded, and then the sequel was even better, and the DLC added on top of that. Every Tekken game up to 7 was jam-packed, and now it's all going down with legacy characters being resold to us. I find this stuff ridiculous, so when I call it out, it's not just, this game sucks, it's setting the precedent that I'm not okay with and we should be treated better, not just me, everybody. Seems small now, but it will inevitably avalanche later. If what happened to Rise happens again, you better believe I'm going to be there to say something about it, even if I love the game or not. Shia should have been there, period. But I didn't give it a 6 out of 10 because it wasn't there. I gave it a 6 out of 10 because I know how this formula is going to work. See, they're already doing what was done in World at launch, right down to the very same molecule. Talismans being upgraded to their max level base game after title updates. Limited time event quests despite games since Try having downloadable event quests. The inability to pick up bounties because it's an online only feature, so people without internet or anyone banned are unable to collect them, despite the fact that these features were available in both World and Rise as just offline features. That's fucking stupid. I'm not thinking about just me. I'm thinking about others too, because this shit goes beyond just me. What I like, what I don't like, this goes beyond me. Every Monster Hunter game has an experimental feature that will show up in another game and be improved upon, except Wilds somehow seems to have missed the memo on improving. Iceborne started the Tail Raiders. Rise improves on that with the Pallet Mutants. Somehow the Seikret is worse than the Pallet Mute and just slightly better than Tail Raiders. It's a glorified transportation device. Stop acting like it's actually anything adding any level of depth to the game outside of getting you from point A to point B and jumping off for a possible mount. So many points on the map where if you want to enter, you have to be on your Seikret, like certain places in the cliffs and Jindahod's fight. The Palamutes are 100 times better. You only have the experience of World and Wilds. You would not know what a better mount is. And by the way, most other video games have mounts more interactive than this. And by the way, again, water is used to push things in other games too. This is not the first one. The menus. Yes, the UI is a drastic undercut of games that came before it, as they are absolutely cluttered for no reason. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and yet that did not apply here. I play these games extensively. I know what I'm talking about. This item pouch is garbage. World's item pouch was still classic, but it had a problem where auto sorting could only be truly occurring after opening up another menu. Rise built upon World's UI in the best way. I don't think you know, but classic MH was hard to deal with when equipping gear and decorations because you went through your entire equipment box to look for stuff. And if you got a lot of talismans and weapons, that's nightmare fuel sometimes. That shit is sucky. World gave you the option to still interact with this feature by choosing from the equipment box, but it also allowed you to search pieces individually and set decorations on currently equipped gear rather than searching. Fantastic feature, and Rise said, hold my beer. Now when you search, you can use from equipment box if you want, or you can select individual pieces and see the entire armor series. Arguably the best equipment box change by far. Wilds, on the other hand, gives you the option to choose certain things but automatically reverts it back if you leave the menu. What kind of UI is that? What the fuck? If you want to search armor by series, you're allowed to do that, but it won't stick that way. It's what I prefer to search with, but every time I open up, I gotta interact with this. In Rise, you pick an armor piece and it takes you to that piece. In Wilds, you pick an armor piece and it automatically takes you to the headpiece. Doesn't even matter if it's equipped. If your armor is at the way bottom, guess where you're going? Way bottom. Scrolling ensues. If I am out in the field or just going back to camp, I have to constantly hold the button to pass notifications along instead of being able to just open up my map. There are tons of UI related problems with this game that build up that frustrating experience. It is not just one issue. It is the straw that breaks the camel's back. There's way too much stupid shit going on in this game that compounds to be a bloated fucking mess. It sucks. Multiplayer is absolute dirt in this game. Having to link party and environment link rather than just joining a lobby is so ass backwards compared to every other game. Progression based multiplayer is an absolute nightmare fest because, like I stated earlier, because you had to repeat quests, and compared to traditional Monster Hunter Village and hub quests, it was so invasive and takes time away. Even if you are playing solo, the amount of on the rails is insane, but I'm not going to repeat myself. I think I said that perfectly already. Artian grinding is madness. Every endgame grind is madness. You are incapable of understanding that I am presenting multiple ways to tackle the endgame content by highlighting that if you do not want to engage with specific monsters, you don't have to. That's the beauty of it. But if you want to and you are capable, you're obviously going to want to reap the most bang for your buck. So you choose the monsters specifically regardless of whether or not you find them out in the field or search via investigations. You can still have, you still have to fight them. Nobody's taking that away. You still have to fight them. You still have to look up the investigation. You still have to find it out in the field. But that's not the primary issue. I couldn't care less if Artian weapons have RNG. What sucks about them is their lack of customization. Look at Safi weapons from Iceborne, Rampage weapons from Rise, and Artian weapons in Wilds. It's 30 days of night and day difference. There was a lot of thought put behind the system themselves in those games, and clearly that's lacking in this one. So I'm farming these endgame materials to barely have options. Is that not Monster Hunter Wild and for real? Monster Hunter gameplay is unique in the fact that your commitment and deliberation of intent are absolutely rewarded. That's fantastic. Games like God Eater and Tokiden, no matter how much I love them, They fail to get this right in their installments. But Wilds, there's various system changes such as flinch thresholds, monster values, new mechanics, and more that are compounded by the introduction of the wound system. You don't gotta worry about wounds making the game easier. The game is already easier. Wounds just take away an aspect of controlling the monster and giving you a periodic CC target. God forbid you do what I do in Staggerlog Doshagama, and don't get me started on Tempered Doshagama. It doesn't feel like Monster Hunter, and it doesn't feel like Monster Fighter. It just feels wrong. To your point, by the way, about making the game more challenging for yourself, but people won't, play heroics or whatever. I could absolutely put on a heroic set and go ape shit. I have a rap sheet as a speedrunner, and I know how to play this game so much that I actively teach people how to play the game too. I am so much that fucking guy that I articulate advanced techniques in an easily digestible form. And to your injudicious point, no one should have to do that. You can create your own challenges, sure, but you can also engage with the challenges set by the game as well. And I don't know, endgame stuff. You don't have to engage with endgame content if you don't want to. If I want to wear full gear that I worked my ass off to get, I'm going to use that full gear. If I like going naked and trying to learn a monster, then I'm going to go naked. But I'm not going to do it just to add some superficial challenge, and neither should anybody else. No one should have to do that shit. Asmongold said that stupid shit, and I completely disagree. It's not that I don't like Asmongold. I'm neutral, but I don't agree with that take. This video is already stupid long. And I have many reasons why I don't enjoy Monster Hunter Wilds that I just boiled down to a few sentences for the sake of brevity for you. And somehow, some way that turned into you being a fucking dick about it. Because here's the thing. What ticks me off the most about you is that you are so sickeningly disingenuous that it's almost insane you couldn't even smell your own stank-ass hypocrisy. You didn't give me any benefit of the doubt. You never looked into anything I said or any other videos to figure that out. You immediately tapped out of the video, made up shit about me on the fly, and got angry at the things you made up. You intentionally cut and cropped this video in such a horrendous way that I just can't understand where you're getting off to this. Most people are not going to go to the original video or find the comment thread, so you're essentially lying up a storm by omission of plenty of what I was saying and leaving shit out. I have the same receipts you do, and I come at this from different angles, and I was still a little bit more respectful until you started spouting stupid shit. If playing all these games compared to your 2 games makes me a loser, that's fine. But I didn't come at you spouting nonsense on your character, and meanwhile, you're harping on my rating like it was a personal attack to you. Bro, get the fuck over yourself. I wish you were better than this, but are you? No. Because for what you're saying, and how fresh you are to this series, nah, get over yourself. And if you're ever going to roll up on somebody else, leave the cap at home.